This is a video about how to build an adapter plate, a 3-point adapter for a Woods 1050 or a Bradco 500 or 600 series backhoe. Those are the most powerful detachable backhoes. And so what I basically did on this one to fabricate this one, I used some of the ideas and improved on them a little bit. On the Woods 1050, I got help from a really nice guy, Sean Gross, who his channel is Modern Country Living, and it's kind of an interesting channel. But he did know me from Adam, and he helped me with some of the dimensions. He measured off of his backhoe, and I used some of that information and tried to build a little bit on it. But anyway, with what I ended up doing here, you have to, for this Bradco backhoe, you had to build I built a case here. I don't know if you can see here, a case, steel case. This is 1/2 inch metal here. It's 6 inches wide here, 1/2 inch thick here. And basically I built a cage here, a box here. Make sure you leave plenty of clearance between your bolts to get your socket on. These are 3/4 bolts with a flathead washer. Make sure you leave plenty of clearance on the side. And the way I just marked it off by basically putting a bolt in and then coming in, drilling a hole and coming in the back side and putting a mark on the, using a pointed bolt, putting a mark on the back side and marking, dimpling all these holes. I'll show some pictures at the end of what I did, and dimpling all the holes and then drilling them. I drilled them a little bit over, about 30 thousandths over. Like I say, these are 3/4 bolts. I went ahead and put something, did a little different. I came off the side here where the pin is. Some people would, I've seen some backhoes where they come off the bottom, and the Woods 1050 comes off the bottom. I thought that'd be a little harder to hook up, so I came off the side, and I like it to where the pin's not just sitting out here freestanding like on the Woods 1050. It's encased, the pin's encased, so there's plenty of structure here. I've bent some pins that just stick out by themselves. They're just kind of sticking out to the side. Plus, this is a little easier to hook up. In addition, when you do it this way, this hitch pin here, or excuse me, this is a linch pin. This linch pin here doesn't really have to hold anything, whereas if it's sticking just out to the side by itself, I'll show you what I mean here so I'm not being too confused. So see how this sticks out by itself, and the linch pin holds, holds it, keeps it on. It's a little harder to hook up with that system versus this system, so I like this system better. And so I welded all this. This is 3/4 metal here. This is 3/4 metal here. This is 1/2 inch here and here. You probably don't need these two braces, but I put them in. This is 1/2 inch here, but this is 1/4 inch here. I made this honestly all with scraps, with just scraps of steel I had laying around. So this part here needs to be really strong. It is this is actually 3/8 metal, and then I welded a plate inside here. This is actually 3/8 metal all the way around, but it's two pieces. It's 2 pieces of angle iron I welded to make a frame here. But before I welded them together, I welded another 1/2 inch piece on the top and on the bottom. So you got basically almost 2 inches of metal if you count the top and the bottom, and then I gusseted it up here. You just want this really strong because there's a lot of force on this top bracket, a lot of force. This top bracket, basically this thing weighs almost 2,000 pounds, this whole thing. This frame I built here weighs about 350, and the backhoe weighs 1,500 or so. So about 1,850 I guess is total weight. So anyway, make sure you, again, watch your welding, do your watch your weld sequencing so you don't pull and misalign your holes. It's kind of tricky, but there's plenty of stuff. People talk about that, so there's plenty of information out there about that. I use 7018 obviously for a stick. For you wire guys, there's equivalent rods, but that's the best rod for structural welding. It's got good Sharpie values and stuff. What else? This one is here. This is 5 inches thick here, and it's by 3/4 inches wide. And I made this double weldment. They sell these, the Woods 1050. The Woods people sell these for $650. I made this. It's a little different than theirs. But you know, it's kind of this, more or less the same thing. They're all kind of the same. Any of these 3-point hookups. But make sure you get this plenty beefy for one of these big backhoes. There's just a lot of stress and force on this. These holes here are 1.25 inches apart. Again, Sean Gross, that was one of the dimensions he helped me with. I wasn't sure how much meat I wanted to leave in between here. I just went with what was on the woods, and they have 1.25 inches. I did a little something different here. I put 2 hookups where the woods just has 1. You know, it just gives you a little bit better of adjustment. You can basically, this is the distance here is 1 7/8 inches. This is 1.25 inches. So if you move this 1 and this one 2, you can basically, you cut your increments on this adjustment. You can cut your increments down to 5/8 increments, or half this distance, half of 1.25 inches. These are 7/8 bolts, and with lock nuts on the back. Make sure, I use grade 8, and the reason I did that, they want, the woods folks in the manual, and this is the spec for them, they want these torqued to 450 pounds, which is a lot of torque, and these are torqued to that. And the reason for that is they want the clamping force. You don't want to rely on a shear strength of the bolt, you know, a loose bolt. So they want it real tight, and this is supposed to put about 40,000 pounds of clamping force at 450 foot-pounds torque. There's a video I'll try and put a link on. There's a guy that actually tests these 7/8 bolts, and he got up to over 50,000 pounds of clamping force. So you want that good clamping force. And so the woods people said to use grade 5, and I just use grade 8 because grade 5 doesn't, it's not listed for 450 pounds of torque, and these grade 8 bolts are. I'm not sure why who made that mistake, but anyway, then on the front here, I just used I welded, the woods people have some kind of fancy bend here where they bend this 3/4 metal, and then they put an insert here. This wiggles, you know, a little like a normal top link. So I just went ahead and put a bottom link, a repair link for a category 2, and then bushed it out to, I bushed it and put a bushing in there for 1 inch, which is top link category 2 is 1 inch hole. And I put that in there, and then just welded that, and then I welded some additional structural stuff here on the outside, and then, you know, welded it of course here, but just to give it a little extra, you know, width and structure. And that's the other thing. This one doesn't have quite the feature that the woods did. The woods has an 1.25 inch hole here to fit a category 3, and then you buy a bushing if you have a category 2 tractor. And so it goes from 1.25 inches. You can bush it down, or you can find these bushings at Tractor Supply, bush it down to 1 inch. And this was actually, since it's a lower link, it's 1 1/8, and I made my own bushing to bush it down to 1 inch. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. These brackets here, this is 3/4 inches by 3 inches. This bend here is 17.5 degrees, and this one's 17.5 degrees. I had to figure that out kind of myself. This is 24 inches here, from here to this bend here, 24.5 from here to here, and this is 6.5 from here to here, and this is 6 from there to there. I got several holes. Again, these are 7/8 holes. I bored these, I think, 30 over, so it's 0.907, I believe, on these is the dimension. 907 thousandths. Let's see what else. This here is inch metal, and I put a distance here of 1 3/8 inches in between there, and you'll see this wraps around here. You want that, you don't want a butt weld here. You want this to wrap around on the top and the bottom. And again, I put these gussets here, and I put ahead, and since you don't want to stretch a hole, I went ahead and added some weldment on this end here, so it's thicker than 3/4 where the bolt goes through. And so you want that. I put a 1/4 inch here on this side. I don't know if you can kind of see, and a 1/4 inch on this side, and welded it and then bored through, and that'll give you just a basically what, 1.25 inches, and then this is 1 3/8 inches, so it's got basically an 1/8 slop back and forth here, you know, in between here. These bolt holes I kept pretty tight here. I think this is actually an inch hole, and an inch hole, you get an inch bolt, it'll barely fit through there. Make sure you keep everything real lined up when you're welding it together. Clamp it good, and do lots of tack welds, and watch your weld sequencing. And that's really about it. I put some gussets here because I wanted to make sure here and here on both sides. Here's these safety chains. On the woods, they put the safety chains up here. I didn't like that. I put them down here, and it's just, these are to wrap around the axle, or in my case, I wrap around the lower link, and they're just more out of the way and better here. I liked it better here. So I drilled through this and then tapped this with a 1/2 inch bolt. This is 5/16 chain, 70 grade, and this is grade 8 bolt again. And that's what woods use. They just use a 5/16. This is just to keep it in case your bracket on your tractor breaks. This whole unit will swing forward and just buck a guy off. It'll just throw a guy right over the seat. And that happens. I've read cases online where a guy was digging the septic tank and it threw him right down in the hole when his top link thing broke. There's just a lot of stress, just an awful lot of stress, because this is all locked. This is all locked together, and really, you don't want to raise your backhoe. You want it all the way down, and it won't go down because of this diagonal cross member here. It won't even go down. You know, so really the whole top link is being held by this, you know, this bracket here. The whole weight of this machine is being held by that bracket. So there's a lot of stress. That's why this is so beefy. You really want this heavy. There's 18 inches clearance from this edge to this edge. So this top member's 18 inches wide, and that's really about all I can think of. So anyway, I'll go ahead and post this on the YouTube, and if you get any questions, I'll try to answer them. I won't check it very often, but the problem is these Bradco backhoes, they're great little backhoes, but they don't have all the backhoes. When you call the factory, they don't build any of these 3-point hitches for Bradcos. They're all made to attach to a skid steer. So I just thought maybe this will help somebody out. I kind of had to figure all this stuff out, like I say, with the help of one really nice guy, Sean Gross, but everything else I just kind of had to figure out on my own. Even the angles were a little tough to figure out, and I built this plywood mock-up right here that I could kind of, I don't know if you can see it there, I could kind of mess with it and adjust it with plywood and lock the angles and stuff, and bend the angles and lock them, see what worked the best. And then I bent these with just a regular jig. I'll try to include some pictures of some of that stuff in links and stuff, some of the stuff and along the way. So anyway, I hope this helps somebody.